My name is Julia. I'm 38 years old, and I've been married to Daniel for almost 12 years. We live in a quiet neighborhood, the kind where people smile but mind their own business. I used to feel safe here, comfortable, like nothing could shake the life we built together. That changed 3 months ago, on the day she moved in. Her name is Clara. She's young, maybe 25. Lives alone. Very friendly. Too friendly. The first time I saw her, she came over with a plate of cookies. "Just a welcome gift," she said with a smile that stayed a second too long when she looked at my husband. Daniel smiled back, polite as always. He thanked her, took the cookies, and said she was welcome any time. I laughed politely, but inside something felt off. First, I told myself I was being silly. Clara was just being nice. She was new, probably nervous, just trying to make friends. But the visits didn't stop. She started waving at Daniel every time she saw him, asking for help to fix things, waiting outside when he came home from work. She said things like, "Your husband is so helpful," or "You're lucky to have him." Always with that same soft voice and tilted head. Daniel didn't seem to notice. Or maybe he did and chose to ignore it. He said I was overreacting. "She's just young," he told me. "Stop being so suspicious." But I knew what I felt. If you want to improve your English by listening to real emotional stories, subscribe to English Storytime and like this video. Learn naturally through simple language and deep emotions. One evening, Clara came to our door again. This time she brought flowers. "For you," she said to me, handing them with a smile. But her eyes went straight to Daniel. And that was the moment I realized. This wasn't just friendliness. It was something else. Something I wasn't ready for. Started small. Little things. Daniel began to spend more time outside. He would say he was fixing something in the garage or watering the plants, but every time I looked out the window, I saw Clara. She was always nearby, walking her dog, pretending to check the mailbox, or just passing by. And Daniel, he always stopped to talk. One evening I asked him, "What were you two talking about today?" He looked surprised. "Nothing important. Just neighbor stuff." I smiled, but my chest felt tight. "You talk a lot for someone who says it's nothing." He laughed and said I was being jealous. "She's just friendly. You're imagining things." But I wasn't imagining the way he checked his hair before going outside. I wasn't imagining how he started putting on cologne just to take out the trash. Or how he suddenly became interested in jogging again. Always right around the same time Clara walked her dog. I tried to ignore it. I tried to trust him. But trust becomes difficult when silence replaces conversation. When your husband stops sharing the small details of his day. When his phone stays face down. When he smiles to himself and says, "It's nothing," but your heart says otherwise. One night, as we got ready for bed, I asked, "Do you think Clara is pretty?" He hesitated. Just for a second. But I saw it. "She's fine, I guess." "Why are you asking?" Shrugged. "Just wondering." He turned off the light without another word. I lay there in the dark, eyes wide open. I wanted to believe he was innocent. That it was all in my head. But I've learned something about women. We don't need proof. We just know. And that night I knew something had changed. Maybe not in his heart, but in his attention. And sometimes that's even harder to lose. I never wanted to be the kind of woman who checks her husband's phone. But one morning as he showered, his phone lit up on the nightstand. Just for a second. Message. I couldn't see the content, only the name, Clara. My stomach turned. My hands itched to pick it up. But I didn't. I just stared at the screen until the light went out. When he came out of the bathroom, I pretended nothing happened. I kissed him goodbye and smiled. But inside my mind was spinning. Why would she text him? About what? Was it just neighborly? Or something more? That day I started noticing more. He got home later than usual. He said traffic was bad, but his shirt was too neatly tucked. His scent was too fresh. I asked what he had for lunch. He paused, then said, "Sandwich." He never ate sandwiches. I began writing things down. Excuses. Expressions. I wasn't trying to trap him. I was trying to make sense of my own confusion. I watched their interactions closely. Clara's smiles. The way she leaned slightly toward him when she spoke. The way he looked down and smiled like a schoolboy with a secret. One afternoon I saw them standing by her gate. She handed him a small package. "Thank you gift," she said. I stepped outside and asked, "What's that?" Daniel turned quickly, surprised to see me. "Oh, nothing. She just gave me a book she thought I'd like." Clara smiled. "It's one of my favorites. I thought he might enjoy it too." Her eyes never left his face. That night I opened the book. Inside a handwritten note. "Some characters remind me of you. No name. No heart. Nothing obvious. But enough to make my hands shake." I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed to be sure. I needed to catch the moment where silence turned into truth. And I felt that moment getting closer. The next time Clara came over, I was waiting by the door. I didn't tell Daniel. I didn't plan it. I just knew I couldn't stay silent any longer. She knocked, holding a small container of cookies. "Fresh from the oven," she smiled. "I thought your husband might like them." I looked her in the eye and said, "You could have just left them in his mailbox." She hesitated, then laughed softly. "I was just being nice." I nodded slowly. "Do you usually bake for married men?" Her smile faded, but she stayed calm. "Is something bothering you, Julia?" Everything." I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just looked at her and said, "You know he's married. You know I'm his wife. And yet, you've been walking a very thin line for weeks. I don't know what your intentions are, but I see you." She blinked, surprised. "I never meant to upset you." Daniel came to the door just as she was leaving. He looked between us. "What's going on?" "Nothing," Clara said quickly. "Just a misunderstanding." She turned and walked away. I closed the door and stood in silence. Daniel followed me into the kitchen. "What did you say to her?" I turned to him. "What haven't you told me?" He frowned. "What are you talking about? Are you talking to her when I'm not around? Are you texting? Are you meeting her?" He didn't answer right away. And in that pause, something in me broke. "I don't know what you want me to say," he finally muttered. "The truth," I said. "I want the truth." He looked down. "I didn't do anything. But maybe I didn't stop something that should have never started." That night we barely spoke. He slept on his side. I lay awake, listening to the quiet. It wasn't the silence that hurt. It was everything it was hiding. Something changed after that night. Daniel didn't defend himself anymore. He didn't try to prove anything. He just moved around the house like a shadow, careful with every word, avoiding eye contact. And I did the same. We shared the same space, but it felt like we were on opposite sides of a glass wall, close enough to see each other but too far to touch. He still kissed me goodbye in the mornings. But now I counted the seconds it lasted. 4, sometimes 5. And every time I asked myself, did he kiss her too? I hated that question. I hated that it lived in my mind, uninvited, whispering in the quiet moments. Clara stopped coming around. No more cookies. No more books. No more excuses. But the damage was already done. I could still feel her presence. On our porch, in our hallway, in the way Daniel paused before answering simple questions. One evening, I found him sitting alone in the garage, staring at nothing. I sat beside him, and for a moment we just listened to the silence. Then I asked, "Why her?" He sighed. "I didn't choose her. I didn't plan anything. It just happened." I turned to him. "You didn't stop it either." He nodded. "I know." I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But nothing came. I just sat there feeling heavy, tired, disconnected from the man I had once loved so deeply. The man I had built a life with. The man who now felt like a stranger. That night, I opened my wedding album. I looked at the photos. Our smiles, our vows, the way he looked at me back then. I touched the page gently, as if trying to reach that version of us. But he was gone. And maybe so was I. I didn't know if I wanted to stay or leave. But I knew one thing for sure. Love doesn't survive in shadows. And mine was starting to fade. Weeks passed. The silence in our house became a routine. Not a pause but a lifestyle. Every room held a tension I couldn't name. We ate dinner like coworkers. We laughed at different moments. We slept on the same bed but in different worlds. And somewhere in that space between us, something final settled. One Saturday morning, I sat by the window with my coffee. Daniel came into the kitchen and asked, "Are you okay?" I looked up and smiled gently. "No. But I will be." He sat down across from me, as if trying to say something. But nothing came. Just the sound of the spoon in his cup. Just the weight of everything we never said out loud. I thought about leaving 1,000 times. I thought about staying 10,000 more. I thought about what love is supposed to feel like. And what it had become for us. Not fire. Not comfort. Not even habit. Just silence, laced with invisible wounds. One afternoon, I walked past the cafe where Daniel and I used to go when we were dating. I sat at a small table by the window and ordered his favorite drink. I closed my eyes and remembered. The way he laughed. The way he held my hand like it meant something. And I asked myself, when did we stop being those people? I didn't know. But I knew we weren't them anymore. That night I told him I needed time. Not to punish him. Not to hurt him. But to find myself again. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm just lost. And I need space to remember who I am without all this noise." He didn't fight me. He didn't cry. He just nodded and said, "I understand." I packed a small bag and went to my sister's house for a few days. Took long walks. I wrote in a notebook. I slept without holding my breath. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something return. My voice. Sometimes love isn't stolen. Sometimes it just fades in the quiet. And when it does, you have two choices. Hold on to the ghost or let it go with grace. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if Daniel and I will find our way back to each other. But I do know this. I will never again ignore my voice. I will never again doubt what my heart feels. And I will never again stay in a place where love is a one-way street. Because the greatest love I ever forgot was the love I owe myself. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment below and share your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to English Storytime for more emotional stories that help you learn English in a real and powerful way.